What up, what up? Welcome on into Inside Baylor Sports, the official daily podcast of Baylor Athletics. On today's show, we're recapping another weekend in Baylor Athletics. Baylor Softball gets the sweep over Houston, while Baylor Baseball got swept against TCU, and Baylor men's and women's tennis both getting knocked out in the first round of the NCAA tournament. All that and more coming up on the show. Don't forget you can catch Inside Baylor Sports every weekday. You can also watch the video version for free over at BaylorPlus.com and on the Baylor Athletics YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, rate, and review the pod. And follow Baylor Plus today on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. It's the official content network of Baylor Athletics. Think Netflix for your Baylor Bears. Download the app on your mobile device and sign up for your free 7-day trial today at BaylorPlus.com. It's Monday, May 6th, 2024. Justin Hoff alongside the Baylor Bear insider, Jerry Hill. And Jerry, it's May. We know what that means. NCAA competition, win or go home. And unfortunately for both our tennis programs, they're going home. But let's start with the women's tennis program. A strong fight out there in California. Had a very a nail biter going against LSU and just dropped this one.
Yeah, I mean, it started with the doubles point. You know, came right down to the wire. Had a chance to win it. Won it number one, I believe, and I believe it came down to maybe a tiebreaker and just couldn't pull it out. That's how close they were. If you win that doubles point, it changes a lot of things. But actually came out and won 4 first sets in singles. And so, again, you're right in position. That's what you need to do. When you lose the doubles point, you got to win 4 points all in singles. And they put themselves in position. They won 4 of those first sets, but just couldn't finish. I think it was at 4 and 5, had underclassmen at both of those spots. And those were the 2 spots that wound up losing there. So, good season, not a great season, obviously, not where they wanted to finish. But yeah, showed a lot of fight, came right down to the wire. Last match on, I believe it was Danielle Tootin that was the last match on, lost in a third set, lost a couple of 3-setters. So, that was tough, Justin, but they did fight. There was no doubt that they did fight all the way to the end. Mishka won a big match at number 1. Sierra Berry won it at number 6, and Lubov won at number 3, and that was a big one. I know that was one that Joey was, I think he was proud of her for one thing, but she actually beat a former teammate and a fellow Ukrainian, so that was a big win for Lubov to win there at number 3. So again, 4-3 loss to a good LSU team, but that it had to end at some point. And it ended for them on the first weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you would have loved to got that first round match win, and they were close. And Jerry, we talked about it, right? We said the doubles point. And you had said that some coaches, sometimes it's not on that doubles point, but ultimately it's a point. And a lot of these matches, especially this time of the year, they can come down to 4-3. And that's exactly what this one was. And that doubles point, ultimately, looking back, hindsight 2020, you win that doubles point, you march on to Stanford. Stanford, however, they did take care of business, looking pretty good as the number 2 seed overall. They defeated LSU 4-0. Expect that Stanford team probably to make the Final Four.
Yeah, that's a really good team. When you're the number 2 seed overall and you're playing on your home courts, that's a tough combination there. And you knew that was going to be the case if you got there to that second round matchup. But I still think, obviously Baylor would have liked to have been there. They wanted to get through that first rounder against LSU, just to get a chance at Stanford. I mean, and we talked about this too, Justin. It's not like Baylor hasn't lined up against some of the best teams in the country. They've faced Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is number 1 in the country and hadn't lost. So, they've faced really good teams. Texas is really good. They won back-to-back national championships. So, this is a really good tennis conference. And, but yeah, they ran up against a good LSU team. And, again, I think LSU had more experience at 4 and 5. I believe it was at 4 that they had a 5th-year senior that had transferred from Miami. Actually, their 4 and 5 positions were both transfers from Miami. So just a lot more experience at those spots that those ultimately decided it. Baylor was pretty, basically even at all the other spots. And they just dropped those 2 to 2 very, much more experienced players.
Or we always say, get old, stay old, right? Experience matters. I don't care. You're driving into work this morning. You got a lot of experience in your job. You can just rely on that experience, right? You've been there, you've done that. You know how to battle through adversity, some resilience. You maybe a little less ability to break down in some of these matches, and sometimes can lead you to some victories. And I would not be surprised. Oklahoma State and Stanford, those two teams in the championship, that's chalk. It's an easy 1 versus 2, but I could see those teams rising. I think on the tennis side, you're really going to see these teams kind of rise to the top. And so, look at the men's side, Jerry, losing to San Diego. San Diego we knew was a really good team. San Diego winning that one 4-1. What'd you see in this match?
Yeah, again, a lot of fight. Justin, this is what it came down to ultimately, and it was 4-1. But Baylor was a match point away from winning at number 3 singles, and they were up a break at 3-1 at number 6 singles. So you were in position to win those other two. You just got to win one more point. And here was the difference in this match. There were 6 tiebreakers. San Diego won 4 of them, and one of them was unfinished. So Baylor won 1 tiebreaker, and I believe that was with Teddy at number 2 singles, and he wound up winning in straight sets. That was the 1 tiebreaker they won. As Michael said, if you just split those, if you win, 2 more tiebreakers, that's probably going to be the difference in the match. Again, we talk about the doubles point. This one definitely came down. Again, if Baylor can win that doubles point, it can make all the difference in the world. 2 of them, they had lost at one spot, but they had 2 of them in tiebreakers. And then they were actually up 4-3 in the other tiebreaker. So they had a chance, but lost, I believe it was at 2 doubles, 7-4 in the breaker. And again, puts you 1-0 down. And then they had, I believe it was a 4-hour rain delay and come back and start singles. So again, but I think that was probably actually a good thing. Gave you a break, let you reset and stuff. But I think they fell down, if I remember this right, early on. They were down in 5 of the 6 courts in that first set. They lost all but 2 of them, and that was Devin and Teddy both won their first sets. But yeah, everywhere else they lost those first sets. But again, it did come down to 3 setters again, and just you were right there. You were that close. And remember, this is a San Diego team. Because A&M was the 15th seed. This was an A&M team that was 18th. They were right there, that close to hosting themselves. So you were that close with a top 20 team with a chance to win and just couldn't finish.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Lots of those tennis matches, sometimes that doubles point. In some cases, obviously it's only 1 point, but for some teams, it almost can be like a first half, and they come out of there with a lot of energy. I can remember back to some tennis teams in the 20 teens coming out of there, some of those players, and especially on the men's side, and just getting that extra energy. I think about the time they hosted actually back in 2016. Teams very strong in the doubles. So looking at women's tennis on the season, 17-13 overall. Their season comes to an end. Losers of their last 2 games. As for Baylor men's tennis, 18-12 and lost their last 5. Faced some tough competition at the end of that season. Some of that competition, TCU and Texas, they're going to have a strong case to be made to make the semifinals. Texas A&M, they defeated San Diego over the weekend in that second round matchup 4-2. It will be Texas A&M against Texas now. But once again, Texas and TCU, 2 and 4 seeds respectively. Then you look up on the other side of the bracket, Ohio State and Virginia. Virginia trying to go, I believe, 3-peat, I think. And so it's an opportunity for those teams, but I think you're going to see a lot of chalk here. And so we'll have to watch it from home, but hope we get ready, because next season, a really big season for both our tennis programs, hosting the tennis championships in Waco. Obviously want to come out there with a great, showing. And so I think next year, hopefully, Jerry, we can at least quarterfinals, semifinals, get there, make a deep run, and kind of, feel like it was back in 2016 again.
Yeah, I think, Michael talked about it. That will be a historic season, something that's never happened. Baylor will be hosting, because they're changing to the individuals being in the fall. So Baylor will host the individual national championships, singles and doubles in the fall. Oh, yeah, they're also hosting the ITA National Indoor combined with SMU, but they're hosting part of the ITA National Indoor. And then NCAA Outdoor Championships in May. Oh, and also the Big 12 Championships. So it's a big year for Baylor tennis. It's one where you've had to have been kind of pinpointing this one. This is one you've been pointing toward, and this is where you really need to field some good teams. Hopefully, get to the national championships, get to that final 8. That would be huge for one or both of those teams, to make it to that final 8 when you're hosting in Waco.
Wow, Jerry, didn't realize we had that many home matches. Good grief. I mean, you don't need to load up the plane, some of that fuel on the plane. Forget it. Let's just stay home in Waco. But yeah, big season ahead for both programs. Looking forward to that. As we finish out the spring season now, just 6 teams left competing. You got Baylor Softball, Baylor Baseball, Baylor Men's Golf, Baylor Women's Golf, and both track and field teams on the outdoor, the men and the women. Softball, a weekend, and they did exactly what they're supposed to do. And I love this piece, Jerry. You're a better team. You were, and you do exactly what you should do. Take care of business against Houston. You don't play around with them. You beat them, you sweep them, and you finish over 500, not only overall, but in conference play at 14-13, and lock up the number 4 seed for this week's Big 12 championships in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I thought that was big, Justin. When you think about, they were 1-8 to start conference play. They were 5-13 after being swept by Texas. They won their last 9 conference games, 3 straight sweeps. Yeah, that's what you needed to do. That's what you did. And now you've set yourself up 31 wins for the season so far. Like you said, 14-13 in conference, number 4 seed for the Big 12 tournament. All those things are great. Like I said, they've put themselves in position. They were 19th in RPI coming into this weekend. I don't know that that'll change much because, playing Houston won't affect your RPI very much. So I suspect that they'll stay right around there, just outside of that top 16. Maybe if you do something special in Oklahoma City at the Big 12 tournament. If you win that Big 12 tournament, now granted, you're facing 3 of the best teams in the country up there. So that's a tough road. But if you did something special like that, maybe you do get to host. But I think they're in good position where even if they're traveling, they're going to face a team that they're very comparable with. And Justin, they've done this, not a shell of the team, but there's a lot of players out. Coach Moore has had to do this with a lot of duct tape and, just kind of piecing things together. And I credit them, Brett and Hoot and that whole staff for what they've been able to do and just kind of piecing things together. When they, could have easily thrown in the towel, but they've won 9 straight conference games and have a lot of momentum going into that Big 12 tournament. I believe it starts Wednesday in Oklahoma City, back at Oklahoma City. And I think Baylor would play Thursday night at 7:30 in that 4-5 matchup.
Yeah, they'll play UCF. We'll have more on the softball Big 12 championships on tomorrow's show with Corey Bolts. But yeah, looking at the top of the standings there, Baylor, the second longest winning streak right now in conference play. That is to Texas. Texas, 14 straight conference wins. Texas, they won the 2024 Big 12 championship in softball, 23-4 overall. You look at Texas, their overall record, 45-6. Oklahoma, 46-6. 6 losses for Oklahoma. That's an eternity, what they've had, here recently, the last couple of years. What's going on with that program? We kid, of course, but 44-9 for Oklahoma State. Those 3 programs, as good as anybody in the country, and they'll have a great shot, of going to the Women's College World Series. And Baylor Softball, of course, hoping to make a run and join those teams, hopefully.
Yeah, I think you're looking at 3 teams that should all be really top 8, with hosting, not only regionals, but super regionals and being able to, get to the World Series back in Oklahoma City. So, the Big 12 was so good this year. Texas, I don't remember when Texas was this good. I think I saw this right, that this was their first conference championship since 2010. So it's been a minute since anybody other than Oklahoma has won this thing. And kudos to Texas, because, man, they've had an unbelievable run at the end of this season, and certainly Oklahoma has shown a little bit of vulnerability. I believe they lost the Bedlam series as well. So, I'd have to go back and check, Justin. I think how many losses did you say they have for the year?
6 for Oklahoma. But I had a point on Texas. But, 6 losses for Oklahoma, which, a situation that you just don't see the last couple of years. 6 losses, that's a lot for them.
Well, I was trying to figure out because, obviously they only lost the one game last year. And I'm trying to think in that 3-year run, if they had even lost a combined 6 games in those 3 seasons. Because like I said, only 1 loss last year. So, definitely, the king was dethroned, I guess. But they're still really good. I mean, that's 3 great teams at the top of the conference standing. So, and I guess Baylor would be set up now with Texas being the 1 seed. They would potentially play them in the semifinals if they can get past UCF.
Yeah, in Texas, they've had a heck of a season. I mean, it's been a lot of sports, those Big 12 releases, a lot of Big 12 championships. I think it might be one of their best seasons of all time, really. You think about football winning their titles, first time since 2009. Obviously, Oklahoma won the Big 12 women's basketball regular season, and men for Texas were down some, so they weren't quite as good this year. But other than those 2 sports, in baseball down a little bit too. Texas has been as good or better than anybody in the Big 12 conference. All right, let's move it over to baseball now. Jerry, we'll finish out the show here. Obviously, a pivotal weekend series. And, of all things that could have happened, this is probably the worst case scenario, losing, and getting swept by TCU. One of your rivals, you needed some wins. It was unfortunate. And now Baylor goes from controlling its own destiny to now needing some help from others, and going to have to put a tough, 2-weekend stretch here together. But, Jerry, your thoughts on the losses to TCU over the weekend?
Yeah, I think it was a case where, TCU had not been on a very good streak at all, but kind of put it together this weekend. Obviously, the wind blowing out some, and they were able to knock some over the wall. So TCU really played well. And I tell you what was impressive about them, because I think back to that Saturday game in particular, the one that went extra innings. Baylor jumps out to a 6-1 lead in the second inning. Looks like they were going to coast. But here was the difference. TCU's bullpen over the last 9 innings gave up 3 hits. That's it. And, Baylor went, I think it was 8 straight zero runs. And then finally, Zach Mazak had a home run in the bottom of the 11th, but that was only after TCU had scored 3 in the top of the inning. So that was the tough one, Justin. If you can just get one, because you came into this weekend ahead of TCU in the Big 12 standings, and now I believe you're maybe 2.5 back of them. So, TCU, and I don't know that they locked it up, but they're in great shape to make the Big 12 tournament. And like you said, Baylor's got a lot of work to do. They've got Oklahoma and UCF, and Oklahoma on the road. So that's a tough deal. And then you host UCF. It was just a tough series, Justin. Obviously the pitching was not good. Particularly the starting pitching was not good. Other than Mason Marriott. Marriott was unbelievable on Friday night. It hurt, him not winning that game or him taking that loss. Goes a career high 8 innings, gives up 2 runs. That's a 2-1 game going into the 9th. And then TCU scored 5 in the top of the 9th, win at 7-1. But that was a tough one. They battled back in Sunday's game. Baylor did. Again, they got down 6-0 in the first inning and lose it 10-6. So Again, they did show some fight. They had a lot of hits in Sunday's game, but it just wasn't enough. Again, you have to have better pitching, particularly starting pitching than that. Particularly those last couple of games just didn't get enough out of Colin McKinney and certainly not out of Mason Green. So they've got some work to do, but they have 6 conference games left, and I suspect they'll probably need to win 4 of those, I'm guessing, to get in. So that's a lot of work to do when you're facing a very good Oklahoma team on the road and then UCF here.
Yeah, right now they're losers of 8 straight Big 12 conference games. That's the second longest losing streak right now going in the Big 12 conference. For those conference games, BYU at 9 straight losses, 6 straight losses for Texas Tech, third on that list. They're really struggling right now. And the advantage we have on Texas Tech is we have the tiebreaker. We beat them way, way back. It feels like it was 2 years ago, but we beat them earlier this season in a series, 2 out of 3 in Waco. And so we can get into that here in a second. But yeah, pitchers duel on Friday, just couldn't hold on. That Saturday game, you got to have it, right? You're up 6-1. You can't let them come back. That was a tough pill to swallow. This game, we had weather throughout the whole weekend. Weren't sure what was going to go on. And this game didn't have any weather issues, but you get off to a 6-0 deficit. You try to do exactly what TCU did on Saturday, but unfortunately just couldn't do it on Sunday. And yeah, looking at the standings right now, 9-15 for Baylor. Texas Tech is sitting right now 10th. And remember, you got to be top 10 to make the Big 12 postseason tournament. And so Texas Tech has 3 more wins than Baylor, same amount of losses. Texas Tech, just 1 series left for them. They got to go on the road at Oklahoma State. They'll need to win, Texas Tech on their end, probably at least 1 to feel good about them going to the Big 12 tournament, probably 2 for their sake. But for Baylor, you got to focus on what's in front of you. And what's in front of you is a really, really good Oklahoma Sooners team, a team that right now has a 3-game lead in the Big 12 standings. And essentially they can clinch. They'll likely be able to clinch if they could, do some work over the weekend. They'll have a chance an opportunity to clinch the Big 12 championship in their final season. So that they have a lot on the line. It's going to be a heck of a series. And very interesting, Jerry, when you look at the numbers, Oklahoma, they're an extremely good road team, not as good at home. They're 15-10 at home on the season, 12-4 on the road. Baylor, of course, a better home team than road team, like most teams, 15-14, 5-9 on the road, second fewest road wins of all Big 12 teams. So it's in front of you for Baylor. Jerry, they're going to have to win at least 3 games. You're going to have to win 3 games. If Tech got swept at Oklahoma State, you win 3, you're going to get into the 10th spot. But more than likely, you're going to have to win 4 games, as Texas Tech likely, has a good shot to win 1 at Oklahoma State and knows they need a bad win.
Yeah, I think the fact that you still have it in your hands, Justin, that at least you have a shot. But yeah, that's a tough go to have to go to Oklahoma, that's leading the league, that really doesn't even have to do that much this weekend to clinch it. If they have a 3-game lead, I'm guessing they would only have to win 1 to clinch it, right? Maybe more than that, because I don't remember how many series they have left. But yeah, they're not going to have to do a whole lot to clinch. So it's going to be a tough go. But if you can win 1 up there and then either sweep or win 2 against UCF, I think you got a shot. And again, some of that may come down to what Tech does against Oklahoma State. You may need some help from Oklahoma State, but Tech has been struggling, like you said. So maybe Oklahoma State helps you out. If they sweep Tech, all you got to do is win 3 of your last 6. Again, that's tough because you got Oklahoma, but then you got 3 games at home against UCF. So it's out there. You still got a shot, and that's the way I'm going to look at it, right?
Yeah, it's still within the possibility, but you got to go get I think you got to go get at least 1. You got to go get it 1 at Oklahoma. And yes, you're rooting hard for the Cowboys. If they sweep Texas Tech, you get 1. Then you're sitting in a position where you then control your own destiny again. And so that's just where you want to get, right? You never want to be in a situation where you're hoping and praying for someone else's demise and you need another team to beat other teams for you. You want to put it in your control. And so this weekend, if they can get some help from Oklahoma State and go out there and get at least 1 against Oklahoma, they'll have the opportunity to get back there. So the seasons are coming to a close here soon, Jerry. It's that time of the year. We're about to wrap things up here in the next couple weeks, and hoping for some teams. There's still opportunity for softball and baseball if those teams can make a run to get to June, but they will need to make a run. And of course, we'll have track in early June. So it's that time of the year. And women's golf gets underway today, the Vegas Regional. And remember, the top 5 advance. And so we'll be keeping an eye on Golf Stat to see all the scores there.
Yeah, great time of the year. A lot of postseason play, and the nice thing is that Baylor so far is making most of those postseason tournaments. Obviously, the men's and women's tennis was a short run, but at least they made it there. And same thing with men's and women's golf. They're in the regional. Now they just got to take care of business. So hopefully the women's golf takes care of their business this week, and then men's golf next week, and we get 2 teams at the NCAA Championships.
All righty, that'll do it for this edition of Inside Baylor Sports, a sport and story production. Thanks for listening. For Jerry Hill, I'm Justin Hoff. Have a great Monday, and Sick 'em Bears.
Sick 'em Bears.